The first time Admiral Sarah Chen heard the distress signal, she was reviewing casualty reports from the Proxima Centauri mining incident. The numbers were grim: 17 dead, 43 injured, all because a simple oxygen recycler had malfunctioned in the asteroid belt. For most species in the galaxy, such losses would be considered catastrophic. For humanity, it was Tuesday. The signal came through the Deep Space Communication Array at 0347 hours, ship time. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Rodriguez, the night shift communications officer, nearly dropped his coffee when the translation software finally made sense of the alien transmission. "Admiral, you need to hear this," Rodriguez said, his voice tight with urgency as he patched the call through to Chen's ready room. Chen rubbed her eyes and activated the comm panel. The voice that emerged was unlike anything in the standard galactic communication protocols: high-pitched, melodic, with an underlying harmonic that suggested multiple vocal cords. The universal translator struggled with the syntax, but the message was clear enough. "This is Static. Harmony Singer Veltar of the Ethereal Collective, our fleet, under attack. Please, anyone who receives this, we are prolonged static, coordinates follow, we offer significant compensation, our children, dying." The transmission cut to static, then repeated. Chen sat back in her chair, her mind racing. The Ethereal Collective, she'd heard of them in the diplomatic briefings. A pacifist species that had achieved faster-than-light travel through some kind of harmonic resonance technology. Beautiful, fragile beings who had never known war, according to the reports. Their homeworld was supposedly a paradise of crystal spires and floating gardens. "Rodriguez, get me everything we have on the Ethereal Collective. And patch me through to Captain Harrison on the Indomitable." The main screen flickered to life, showing the weathered face of Captain James Harrison. Behind him, Chen could see the controlled chaos of a heavy cruiser's bridge, crew members moving with practiced efficiency, screens displaying tactical information, the low hum of conversation and machinery that marked a ship ready for action. "Admiral, I caught the transmission too. My xenobiology officer says the ethereals are about as combat capable as a butterfly in a hurricane. If someone's attacking them." Harrison's expression was grim. "Then it's a massacre, not a battle," Chen finished. "How's your fleet status?" "The Indomitable, Retribution, and Vengeance are at full readiness. The Prometheus is still undergoing repairs from the Vega incident, but she's spaceworthy. We can have a full battle group moving in 6 hours." Chen nodded. The human fleet wasn't the largest in the galaxy, but it was certainly the most feared. When the Galactic Council had first encountered humanity, they'd been horrified to discover that humans came from what they classified as a Class 12 Deathworld, a planet so hostile that the mere act of survival had turned its inhabitants into something approaching living weapons. Earth's gravity was crushing by galactic standards. Its atmosphere was a corrosive mix of oxygen and nitrogen that would kill most species in minutes. The planet was bombarded by radiation from its star, racked by violent weather patterns, and populated by creatures that seemed designed by some mad god of war. And somehow, impossibly, one species had not only survived but thrived in this hellscape. The first diplomatic contact had been tense. The Galactic Council's peaceful first contact protocols had assumed they were dealing with a typical oxygen-breathing species that had developed on a garden world. Instead, they'd found themselves facing beings who could lift their body weight in Earth gravity, who could survive in environments that would kill most galactic species, and who had developed military technology that made seasoned Korthak warriors weep. "Admiral," Rodriguez's voice cut through her reverie. "I'm getting updated coordinates from the distress signal. The ethereal fleet is in the Kepler 442 system, approximately 47 light-years from our current position." Chen pulled up the star charts on her personal display. Kepler 442 was in the outer rim, far from the major trade routes. Not a place you'd expect to find a peaceful species like the ethereals, unless they were running from something. "Harrison, prep your battle group. We're going to take a look." "Understood, Admiral. What are our rules of engagement?" Chen paused. The human fleet's reputation preceded them wherever they went. They were the galaxy's problem solvers, the ones other species called when diplomacy failed and someone needed to be reminded that the universe was not a safe place. But they were also careful. Too many incidents with lesser species had taught them that their very presence could be more terrifying than whatever threat they were responding to. Standard humanitarian protocols, she said finally. We assess the situation, render aid if possible, and try not to scare anyone to death just by showing up. The ethereals are friendlies, remember. Copy that, Admiral. Though I have to say, if someone's attacking a species known for being pacifist crystal singers, they're probably not going to be impressed by our diplomatic credentials. Chen smiled grimly. Then we'll have to be persuasive in other ways. The jump to hyperspace was always a violent affair aboard human vessels. Where other species had developed smooth, elegant FTL systems that barely registered to their passengers, human ships punched through the fabric of spacetime with the subtlety of a sledgehammer. The Indomitable and her sister ships translated into hyperspace with a series of shuddering impacts that would have hospitalized most galactic citizens. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching the swirling chaos of hyperspace on the main screen. Around her, the bridge crew went about their duties with the calm efficiency that marked veterans of a dozen conflicts. These were not the peaceful explorers that most species sent to the stars, these were the descendants of warriors, shaped by 10,000 years of conflict on a world that had tried to kill them every single day. ETA to the Kepler 442 system, she asked. 17 hours, 14 minutes at current speed, reported Lieutenant Sarah Kim from the navigation console. Though we're pushing the engines pretty hard. The engineering chief says we're running about 10% over recommended parameters. Tell Chief Petty Officer O'Brien that if his engines can't handle a little stress, maybe he should have stayed in the civilian sector, Chen replied. Around the bridge, several crew members smiled. O'Brien was a legend in the fleet, a man who could coax performance from machinery that would make the manufacturers weep. If he said the engines could handle it, they could handle it. Admiral, called out Commander Lisa Park from the communications station. I'm picking up more transmissions from the ethereal fleet. The signal is getting weaker, but I'm getting some additional details. The translated message played over the bridge speakers, the alien harmonics creating an almost musical quality even through the universal translator. Unknown vessels approaching, please identify yourselves, we are grateful for any assistance, our attackers, ships of dark metal. They do not respond to communications, they take our people, harvest our singers, please, if you can hear this, we are dying. The bridge fell silent. Chen felt a cold anger building in her chest. Slavers. In all the galaxy's long history of violence and exploitation, few things aroused more universal condemnation than the taking of sentient beings for forced labor. The Galactic Council had strict prohibitions against slavery, but enforcement was often lacking in the Outer Rim territories. Commander Park, any identification on these attackers? Negative, Admiral. The ethereal sensor data is fragmentary at best. They're describing the ships as dark metal and silent to the harmony, but that could mean anything. Chen nodded. The ethereals were known to perceive the universe in ways that didn't translate well to human understanding. Their entire civilization was built around harmonic resonance and musical mathematics. A ship that was silent to the harmony might simply be one that didn't emit the right frequency signatures. Harrison, what's our tactical assessment? Captain Harrison consulted his tactical display. For heavy cruisers, including the Indomitable. Full complement of fighters and support craft. Marine contingent aboard the Vengeance if we need boarding parties. Against an unknown force that's been able to overwhelm a peaceful species. He shrugged. Hard to say without more intel. Well, we'll know soon enough, Chen replied. All ships, maintain formation. When we drop out of hyperspace, I want full tactical scans immediately. If these attackers are still in the system, we need to know what we're dealing with. The hours passed slowly. Chen found herself reviewing everything the human databases contained about the ethereal collective. It wasn't much, they were a relatively new contact, having achieved FTL travel only about 50 years ago. They were described as crystalline beings, roughly humanoid in shape but composed of some kind of living mineral that could resonate at specific frequencies. Their entire technology base was built around harmonic manipulation. They could shape matter by singing to it, create energy fields through musical mathematics, and even achieve FTL travel by finding the right resonance frequency to slip between dimensions. It was beautiful, elegant, and completely useless in a fight. "Admiral," Lieutenant Kim called out. "Approaching the Kepler 442 system. Dropping out of hyperspace in 30 seconds. All stations, battle ready," Chen ordered. "Weapons hot, shields up. Let's see what we're walking into." The transition from hyperspace was violent, as always. The Indomitable shuddered as she dropped back into normal space, her massive bulk seeming to pause for a moment before the ship's systems fully engaged. Around her, the other ships of the battle group materialized in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming dully in the light of the Kepler 442 star. "Tactical, report," Chen ordered. "Multiple contacts, Admiral," replied Lieutenant Commander Torres from the tactical station. "I'm reading, holy shit." "Sorry, Admiral. I'm reading debris fields throughout the system. Massive amounts of wreckage." The main screen shifted to show the tactical display. Chen felt her heart sink as she saw the scope of the destruction. Scattered throughout the system were the remains of what must have been a significant fleet. The wreckage showed the distinctive crystalline structure of ethereal ships, but it was twisted and broken, as if something had systematically hunted down and destroyed every vessel. "Any survivors?" she asked. "Scanning now, Admiral. I'm picking up some faint power signatures, there, bearing 27 Mark 15. Looks like a small group of ships, maybe survivors trying to hide in the asteroid belt." "And the attackers?" "No sign of them, Admiral. Whatever did this, they're long gone." Chen felt a mixture of relief and frustration. Relief that they wouldn't have to face an unknown enemy immediately, frustration that the attackers had escaped. She'd seen enough battlefields to know that this level of destruction didn't happen quickly. The attackers had taken their time, been methodical about it. Set course for the survivor group. And get me a channel to them. As the human fleet moved toward the asteroid belt, the true scope of the disaster became clear. The ethereal fleet had been enormous. Chen counted the remains of at least 200 vessels, ranging from small courier ships to massive city ships that must have housed millions of beings. All of them had been systematically destroyed, their crystalline hulls shattered and their harmonic cores silent. "Admiral, I'm getting a response from the survivor group," Commander Park reported. They're terrified. I don't think they've ever seen ships like ours." Chen wasn't surprised. Human warships were designed for function over form. Where most galactic species built sleek, elegant vessels that looked like works of art, human ships were brutal, angular things that looked exactly like what they were: instruments of war. The Indomitable was 1.5 kilometers of armored death, bristling with weapons and painted in the flat gray that absorbed sensor scans. "Put me through to them," Chen ordered. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of what was clearly a damaged ethereal ship. The beings Chen saw were unlike anything in her experience. They were vaguely humanoid, but their bodies seemed to be composed of living crystal that caught and reflected light in impossible ways. Their faces were beautiful in an alien way, with features that seemed to shift and change as they moved. But now they were dulled with pain and fear, their crystalline forms showing cracks and fractures. "Unknown vessels," the lead ethereal said, their voice a harmony of multiple tones. "We thank you for responding to our distress call, but we must warn you, the Silent Ones may return. You should flee while you can." "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Defense Force," Chen replied. "We received your distress signal and came to render assistance." "What happened here?" The ethereal's form seemed to shudder. "The Silent Ones came from the dark between stars. Ships of black metal that sang no songs, made no harmony. They took our people. Harvested our singers. They said they needed our harmonic abilities for something, but they would not say what." "How many of you are left?" 12 ships. Perhaps 3,000 souls. We are all that remains of the ethereal Third Exploration Fleet." The alien's voice broke into discordant harmonies. "We were to establish a new colony, to spread our songs to the stars. Instead, we have brought only death." Chen felt the familiar cold anger building in her chest. 3,000 survivors out of what must have been millions. It was genocide, plain and simple. Do you know where the attackers went? They spoke of a great work, a weapon that would bring silence to the galaxy. They took our greatest singers, those who could shape matter with their voices. They said. The ethereal paused, their form flickering with distress. They said the weapon was nearly complete, that they needed only a few more harmonic matrices to finish it. A weapon that brings silence to the galaxy, Chen repeated. Any idea what that means? The ethereal's form brightened slightly. Our histories speak of the Great Silence, a time before time when there was no song, no harmony, no life. If such a weapon existed, it could unravel the very fabric of existence, reduce all matter to its most basic components. It would be the end of all things. The bridge fell silent. Chen felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. Whatever these silent ones were, they had just made themselves humanity's problem. Commander Park, get me a secure channel to Earth Command. Priority Alpha encryption. The communication took several minutes to establish. When Admiral Michael Hayes appeared on the screen, his expression was grave. Hayes was one of the few humans who outranked Shen, a veteran of the Vegan War and one of the architects of humanity's modern military doctrine. Admiral Chen, we received your initial report. How bad is it? Worse than we thought, sir. We're looking at potential genocide here, and the attackers have apparently taken prisoners for some kind of weapon project. The survivors are talking about something that could bring silence to the galaxy and all life as we know it. Hayes was quiet for a long moment. Do you have any leads on these attackers? Not yet, sir. But I'm going to find out. The ethereals who were taken, they're not just prisoners, they're being used as components in some kind of superweapon. We can't let that stand. Agreed. You have full authorization to pursue this matter, Admiral. Take whatever resources you need. And Chen? Yes, sir? The Galactic Council has been asking questions about human military doctrine. Some of the member species are getting nervous about our expansion into the Outer Rim. Try not to give them any new reasons to worry. Chen smiled grimly. I'll do my best, sir. But if these silent ones want to play with superweapons, they're going to get a demonstration of why humans are considered a military species. After the communication ended, Chen turned back to the tactical display. The ethereal survivors were already being evacuated to the human ships. Their crystalline forms were fragile, but they could survive in human environments with minimal life support adjustments. Harrison, what's our next move? I've been analyzing the debris patterns, Harrison replied. The attackers were methodical, but they left traces. The way they destroyed these ships, the weapon signatures, it's not random. They were harvesting specific components, targeting the harmonic cores first. Any idea where they went? I'm working on it. The debris field shows gravitational disturbances consistent with multiple FTL jumps. If I can map the pattern. Harrison paused, studying his display. There. I'm reading trace particles that suggest they jumped toward the Veil Nebula. It's a perfect place to hide a fleet. The nebula interferes with most sensor systems. Chen nodded. The Veil Nebula was a massive cloud of ionized gas and dust that stretched across several star systems. It was largely unexplored, considered too dangerous for most species to navigate. But if someone wanted to hide a secret base, it would be ideal. How long to reach the nebula? 18 hours at maximum speed. But Admiral, we're talking about going into completely uncharted space. We have no idea what we'll find in there. Then we'll find out together. Set course for the Veil Nebula. And get me our best xenobiologist and our intelligence officer. I want to know everything we can learn about these silent ones before we walk into their territory. As the human fleet jumped back into hyperspace, Chen found herself in the ship's conference room with her senior staff and several of the ethereal survivors. The room had been adjusted to accommodate the aliens' unique physiology, the lighting had been modified to include harmonic frequencies that seemed to comfort them, and the air had been enriched with trace minerals that helped maintain their crystalline structure. Dr. Elizabeth Warren, the fleet's chief xenobiologist, was examining tricorder readings from the ethereal survivors. Warren was a compact woman with graying hair and the intense focus of someone who had spent her career studying alien life forms. The ethereals are fascinating, she was saying. Their entire physiology is based on harmonic resonance. They don't have organs in the traditional sense, their bodies are living crystals that vibrate at specific frequencies to perform biological functions. They literally think in mathematical harmonies. And the silent ones? Chen asked. That's where it gets interesting. According to the survivors, the silent ones are completely immune to harmonic manipulation. Ethereal weapons and technology had no effect on them whatsoever. It's as if they exist in a null space where harmonic frequencies can't penetrate. Commander Rodriguez, the fleet's intelligence officer, pulled up a holographic display showing the known regions of the galaxy. I've been researching historical records, Admiral. There are mentions of ships matching the Silent One's description going back about 500 years. Always in the outer rim, always attacking species with unique abilities or technologies. Species like the ethereals, Chen observed. Exactly. And here's the disturbing part: every species they've attacked has eventually gone extinct. Not through conventional warfare, but through what the records describe as harmonic dissolution. Their populations simply stopped existing. One of the ethereal survivors, who had introduced herself as harmony singer Cathara, spoke up. Her voice was a complex musical phrase that the translator rendered as urgent concern. The Silent Ones spoke of a great work, she said. They claimed that life itself was a flaw in the universe, a discordant note that needed to be corrected. They said their weapon would restore the eternal silence that existed before the first songs of creation. Dr. Warren looked up from her readings. If I'm understanding this correctly, they're talking about some kind of universal entropy accelerator. A weapon that could break down the molecular bonds that hold matter together. The ultimate weapon, Chen said quietly. The ability to unmake existence itself. And they're using captured ethereals as components, Rodriguez added. The harmonic matrices that Cathara mentioned, they're probably using the ethereal's natural resonance abilities to fine-tune the weapon. Chen stood up, pacing to the conference room's viewport. Outside, the swirling chaos of hyperspace rushed past. She had seen enough war to know that sometimes the only way to stop a greater evil was to become something terrible yourself. But this was different. This wasn't about territory or resources or politics. This was about the fundamental right of existence itself. How long do we have? She asked. Unknown, Rodriguez replied. But if they've been collecting harmonic matrices for 500 years, and they only needed a few more to complete the weapon. He shrugged. Could be days, could be years. Then we find them first, Chen said. Harrison, what's our tactical situation? For heavy cruisers against an unknown force. We're going into their territory, on their terms. Tactically, it's a nightmare. Harrison paused. But we have advantages. Human ships are built for the kind of violent, chaotic combat that most species can't handle. If we can get close enough, we can hurt them. And if the weapon is already complete? Then we hope our ship's shielding can withstand universal entropy dissolution long enough to ram their base. Chen looked around the table. Her senior staff was composed of veterans, people who had seen the worst the galaxy had to offer. They knew the odds, knew what they were facing. But she also saw the determination in their eyes. This was what humanity did, they faced the impossible and found a way to make it work. All right, people. We're going to find these silent ones and stop them. Not because the Galactic Council asked us to, not because it's politically convenient, but because if we don't, there won't be a galaxy left to save. Questions? Dr. Warren raised her hand. Admiral, if we do find this weapon, how do we destroy it? If it's designed to unmake matter itself, conventional weapons might not work. Then we get creative, Chen replied. We're humans. We specialize in breaking things that aren't supposed to be broken. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Veil Nebula after 18 hours of hard traveling. The nebula was a massive wall of swirling gas and dust that stretched across the viewscreen, shot through with electrical discharges and gravitational anomalies. It was beautiful in a terrifying way, like a storm frozen in space. "Sensors are mostly useless in there," reported Lieutenant Commander Torres. "The ionization is interfering with everything. We'll be flying blind." "Then we fly carefully," Chen replied. "Take us in, but keep the fleet tight. I don't want to lose anyone in there." The Indomitable led the way into the nebula, her massive bulk cutting through the ionized gases like a sword through silk. The bridge lighting automatically adjusted to the strange auroras that played across the ship's hull, casting everything in shifting colors of green and blue. "Admiral," called out Lieutenant Kim from the navigation station. "I'm reading some kind of structure dead ahead. It's massive." The main screen flickered, then resolved into an image that made everyone on the bridge fall silent. Ahead of them, emerging from the swirling gases of the nebula, was a space station unlike anything in the galactic databases. It was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, and completely black. Not the flat black of stealth coating, but a black that seemed to absorb light itself, creating a void in space that hurt to look at directly. "That's not showing up on any of our sensors," Torres reported. "It's like it doesn't exist." "But we can see it," Chen observed. "Which means it's selectively blocking specific types of detection." "Clever." "Admiral," Commander Park interrupted. "I'm reading massive energy signatures from the station. And there are ships, lots of them. They're moving to intercept us." The tactical display lit up with contact markers. The Silent One's fleet was emerging from the nebula like ghosts, their black hulls nearly invisible against the cosmic background. Chen counted at least 50 vessels, ranging from small fighters to massive dreadnoughts that dwarfed even the Indomitable. "All ships, battle stations," Chen ordered. "Prepare for engagement." The first shots came without warning. Beams of pure darkness lanced out from the Silent One's ships, striking the Indomitable's shields with a sound like reality tearing. The ship shuddered, and alarms began blaring. "Shields down to 60%, Torres reported. "Whatever they're shooting at us, it's not showing up on any scanners." "Return fire," Chen ordered. "All batteries, target the lead ship." The Indomitable's massive railguns spoke, sending depleted uranium slugs screaming across space at a significant fraction of light speed. The shot struck the Silent One's lead ship and passed right through it, as if it weren't there. "What the hell?" Harrison's voice crackled over the calm. "Our shots aren't connecting. It's like they're phased or something." Chen watched the tactical display, her mind racing. The Silent Ones could hit them, but human weapons couldn't hit back. It was like fighting ghosts. "Dr. Warren, any ideas?" The Ethereal said the Silent Ones were immune to harmonic manipulation. Warren replied over the calm, "Maybe they exist in some kind of null space, a reality where normal physics don't apply." "Then how are they hitting us?" "I don't know." "But wait. Admiral, try targeting their weapons. When they fire, there's a brief moment where they have to interact with normal space." "That might be our window." Chen nodded. "All ships, target enemy weapons only. Fire when they're charging to shoot." The battle became a deadly dance. The human ships twisted and turned through the nebula, their hulls scoring through the ionized gases as they tried to avoid the Silent One's reality-tearing weapons. When an enemy ship began to charge its weapons, every human ship in range would focus fire on that exact spot, trying to hit the weapon during the brief moment it existed in normal space. Slowly, it began to work. The Retribution managed to destroy one of the smaller Silent One ships, causing it to simply cease to exist rather than explode. The Vengeance crippled a medium cruiser, sending it spinning away into the nebula's depths. But the human ships were taking damage too. The Silent One's weapons were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They didn't just damage hulls or overload shields, they seemed to unravel the molecular structure of whatever they hit. The Prometheus took a direct hit that erased a 100-meter section of her hull, leaving behind a perfectly smooth void. "We can't keep this up," Harrison reported. "They're wearing us down." Chen studied the tactical display. The Silent One station was still ahead of them, its massive bulk dominating the sensor readings. If the weapon was in there, they had to reach it. But the enemy fleet was too strong, too numerous. All ships, form up on the Indomitable. We're going to ram our way through. Admiral, that's suicide, Harrison protested. Maybe. But it's the only way we're going to reach that station. And if we don't stop them here, everyone in the galaxy is going to die anyway. The human fleet formed into a tight wedge formation, with the Indomitable at the point. They accelerated toward the Silent One station, their weapons blazing as they carved a path through the enemy fleet. Ships exploded around them, or simply vanished as they were caught in the reality-tearing crossfire. The Retribution was the first to fall. A massive Silent One's dreadnought appeared directly in front of her, its weapons already charged. The blast struck the human ship amidships, and half of her simply ceased to exist. The remaining half tumbled away, atmosphere and debris streaming from the perfectly smooth cut that had been made through her hull. Retribution is gone, Torres reported, his voice tight with emotion. Reading massive casualties. Chen closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of command. Those were her people, her responsibility. But she couldn't stop now. Too much was at stake. Continue the attack, she ordered. The Vengeance made it almost to the station before she was destroyed. 3 Silent One ships converged on her, their weapons creating a web of darkness that simply erased the human cruiser from existence. One moment she was there, the next there was only empty space. 2 ships down, Harrison reported. Admiral, we're not going to make it. Yes, we are, Chen replied. Because we have to. The Indomitable and Prometheus reached the station's outer hull, their weapons firing continuously at the black surface. But their shots had no effect, the station seemed to exist in the same null space as the Silent One ships. Admiral, Dr. Warren called out. I'm reading massive energy buildups throughout the station. I think they're activating the weapon. Chen looked at the tactical display. The station was beginning to glow with an inner light that hurt to look at directly. Around them, the nebula itself seemed to be reacting, the ionized gases beginning to break down into their component atoms. Time to get creative, Chen muttered. Torres, can you get me a firing solution on the station's power core? Negative, Admiral. It's too heavily shielded, and our weapons can't penetrate the null space effect. Chen thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. Who says we need to penetrate it? Park, open a channel to the station. I want to talk to whoever's in charge. The main screen flickered, then showed the interior of the Silent One station. The beings Chen saw were unlike anything in the galactic databases. They were tall, skeletal figures composed of what looked like living shadow, with faces that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. When they moved, reality seemed to bend around them. Human, one of them said, its voice like the sound of stars dying. You arrived too late. The great work is nearly complete. Soon, the silence will return to the galaxy. Why? Chen asked. Why do you want to destroy everything? Because existence is chaos, the Silent One replied. Life brings disorder, noise, pain. We will restore the perfect silence that existed before the first atoms formed. It is a mercy. Mercy for who? The trillions of beings you'll be murdering? They will not suffer. They will simply not be. As it should be. Chen felt the cold anger building in her chest. You know what? I've heard enough. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All right, people. We can't destroy the station from the outside. So we're going inside. Admiral? Torres looked confused. We're going to ram the station. But not to destroy it, to board it. If we can get Marines inside, maybe we can stop the weapon manually. Harrison's image appeared on the screen. Admiral, that's insane. Even if we survive the impact, we'll be trapped inside with hostile forces. Then we'd better make sure we bring enough firepower, Chen replied. Harrison, prepare your Marine contingent. Full combat gear, heaviest weapons we have. And pack some of those new experimental charges that O'Brien has been working on. The antimatter implosion devices? Admiral, those are still in prototype stage. We don't know if they'll work. Then we're about to find out. We've got about 10 minutes before they finish charging that weapon. Move. The Indomitable and Prometheus separated, circling around to opposite sides of the station. Chen's plan was simple in its brutality: rammed the station with both ships simultaneously, hoping to create enough of a breach to get Marines inside. All hands, prepare for impact, Chen announced over the ship's communication system. This is going to hurt. The Indomitable accelerated toward the station, her massive bulk picking up speed as she approached the black surface. At the last moment, Chen ordered the ship's forward shields to maximum power and activated the emergency inertial dampeners. The impact was like hitting a wall of solid reality. The Indomitable's forward hull crumpled like paper, but her momentum carried her deeper into the station's structure. Behind her, the Prometheus struck from the opposite side, her smaller hull punching through the station's outer layers. For a moment, everything was chaos. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and the artificial gravity failed. Then, slowly, the emergency systems came online. Damage report, Chun ordered, pulling herself up from the deck. Forward sections 1 through 15 are completely gone, Torres reported. We've got massive hull breaches, life support is failing in multiple sections, and the main engines are offline. But we're alive. And we're inside the station, Chen added. Harrison, report. Prometheus is in similar shape. We've got a partial breach into what looks like the station's main corridor system. I'm reading atmosphere on the other side, but it's not breathable for humans. Then we use environmental suits. How many Marines do we have? 67 from the Indomitable, 32 from the Prometheus. Plus whatever crew members are still combat capable. Chen nodded. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. All right, people. We're going to split into 3 teams. 1 to secure the landing zone, 1 to find and destroy the weapon, and 1 to look for the captured ethereals. Questions? Admiral, Dr. Warren spoke up. The weapon, if it's as powerful as the Silent Ones claim, how do we destroy it? Same way we destroy everything else, Chen replied. We hit it with enough firepower to turn it into component atoms. O'Brien, how many of those experimental charges do we have? 12 devices, Admiral. But I have to warn you, they're not tested. They might not work, or they might work too well. What do you mean, too well? The antimatter implosion is designed to create a localized gravitational anomaly. If the calculations are off, it could create a black hole. Chen smiled grimly. Then we'd better make sure our calculations are right. Let's move out. The interior of the Silent One station was a nightmare landscape of twisted geometry and impossible angles. The corridors seemed to bend in directions that didn't exist, and the walls were covered in symbols that hurt to look at directly. The air was thick with a presence that made the human skin crawl.